Today is September 2024, and this is session 30 also of Discovering the Essence of Nonviolent Communication with Jim and Jori Manske, and I'll turn it to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Glad to be here. How are you, Jori? Welcome back.
Thank you. I just noticed that in the chat. I got some responses. I'm touched. Thank you for letting me know that you missed me. That feels good.
Yeah.
And I am really glad to see you all, and I missed it as well. I just wasn't in any space to come at that point, and luckily he's more resilient than I am because he shows up all the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
I'm in the
That's
most
true.
of the time mode these days.
Yes.
And I'm surprised to be here today. I figured I'd be laying in a hospital bed today because my surgery was originally scheduled for today, but there's been a delay getting some test results back that confirm whether or not this surgery is worthwhile to do. So we're on pause, and that means I get to come here and play with you. And so I'm happy about that, and I feel remarkably open to outcome about what might happen with the surgery. I certainly don't want to get a surgery if it's not going to help the main symptom I have, which is a cough. You guys have probably seen me mute all the time because I'll get triggered with a cough. And so the idea is that the surgery would help that. If it's not going to help, then we'll go back to square one and see what we can discover that might help. Today's class is on the open-hearted flow of giving and receiving, which goes to the very purpose of nonviolent communication. So we'll explore that together today, and got some questions for you to journal about, and then the opportunity to get in small groups and chat. So that's pretty much the pattern we usually have. Start with a self-connection exercise in just a minute, which today will be a song from Marshall. And I'll show you the picture in just a second. Marshall from about 1969 or 1970. And then I'll probably play the song twice. Once just so you can hear it, the second time with the lyrics up so you can really take it in. And then we'll just sit with those lyrics for a minute. Then we'll go to small groups and talk about what comes alive in you as you consider Marshall's words. And then when we get back, we'll come back here to the large group, and maybe some more folks will join us. Usually we have somewhere between 40 and 60 people here. We're up to 40 now, more or less. And we'll just chat and connect a little bit here. And then we'll start the lesson on open-hearted flow of giving and receiving.
And I don't know if you already said this, but if you don't want to be in a group, put an equal sign in front of your name.
Yeah, Martha took care of that.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Martha.
Yep, so I'm going to share my screen here.
Yeah.
You should see the words from now on, and a picture of a very young Marshall Rosenberg with two friends. And those two other guys are Al Chappelle, who maybe if you've listened to some of Marshall's videos, you might have heard Marshall talk about his relationship with Al, and Steve Moto. And so this particular song has a bit of a country feel to it. And so we'll just listen to it first, then I'll put the words up on the second round for you.
There are the words.
I wanna stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread loving waves wherever I go. I want everything I say or do to your joy in being you. I want to stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread love and waves wherever I go. I like being aware I don't have to achieve. Life is a gift I have only to receive. I want to stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread love and waves wherever I go. There is a day that's coming I'm longing to see, where we don't honor flags more than humanity. I want to stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread loving waves wherever I go.
You could just take that in for a moment and get ready to play it a second time. And I'll put the words up on the screen this time. Okay.
I want to stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread loving waves wherever I go. I want everything I say or do to increase your joy in being you. I want to stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread love and waves wherever I go. I like being aware I don't have to achieve. Life is a gift I have only to receive. I want to stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread love and waves wherever I go. There is a day that's coming I'm longing to see, where we don't honor flags more than humanity. I want to stay in touch with life's sweet flow and spread loving waves wherever I go.
Just take that in for a moment. If you want to, you can close your eyes. Just notice how your body responds to this stimulus of listening to this oldie but goodie from Marshall. Notice the sensations and emotions that arise in you like signals, letting you know information about the state of your needs right now. You might notice that these feelings and needs change from moment to moment. You might not even be thinking about the song anymore. Might have stimulated thoughts about other things. That's fine. Just stay with yourself and stay with your direct experience of feelings and needs. You might want to choose one of these needs that's particularly alive in you and savor it. Just enjoy the energy of that universal human need. Universal because we share these needs with all 8 billion of us. All of humanity shares the same needs. There's a sense of celebration in you related to this need. You can savor that feeling as well as the need. If there's a sense of pain, open your heart to experience that as well. That's nature crying for you to pay attention to these unmet needs and consider what would make life wonderful from now on related to that need. In other words, is there a request that's arising in you? Something that is encouraging you to act in the service, to contribute to this need. In just a moment, we'll move to small groups. We'll do this for 14 minutes plus 1. Most of the groups are likely to have 3 people in them. There might be some groups with 2.
She's great.
And what do you do in the small group? Well, this is your chance to live the purpose of nonviolent communication, to practice connection, to practice compassion. So communication is this great strategy that we human beings have, that where we can live compassionate giving and receiving. So that's what we'll do for the next 15 minutes. Try to divide the time up so that everybody gets about 5 minutes to share. And you can share about your response to the song or anything else that's alive in you, your honesty. When it's not your turn to speak, you can listen with empathy. And what that means is to listen. And so let's hear from a few of you. How did this song move you, or how did your small group move you, or what's alive in you now? If you'd like to be heard, just raise your hand with your electronic hand at the bottom and under the React heart, and love to hear your voice. Beth, were you raising your hand without your hand? Did you want to say something? No. Okay. Go ahead, Leanne.
Well, I haven't been here to this group in a number of weeks, and I was really delighted to be in a breakout room with Dawn and Beth. And as luck would have it, all 3 of us were eating, and I said it felt like we were having dinner together because we were all taking turns talking and munching away. It was really lovely, actually. Yeah, it was nice to hear the reactions to the song and how we were interpreting, you know, life's flow. But it was also just nice to be having a meal together.
Yummy.
Sweet.
Sounds like yummy on many levels.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I loved having that experience with you, at least to hear about it. Yeah.
Somebody else? Yeah, Han.
Hi, hon.
Hi, yes. So Clarify and I were in a room, and we both felt really touched by the song and inspired. And Clarify was saying, "Oh, actually, it seems like it's not so hard to love. It's just about opening our hearts." And for both of us, we were. For me, I was bawling out. Clarify was also had tears in her eyes. I think, yeah, it's so inspirational seeing Marshall just being able to love wholeheartedly. And it's something that, yeah, both of us really wish to, yeah, have for ourselves.
Mm,
Thank you for sharing, Han.
thank you.
Appreciate your honesty. Anyone else? Yeah, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Whoops.
Can't hear you yet. There you
Yes,
go.
okay. So I really liked this little interlude in the breakout room. And two of us really liked the line from the song, "I want everything I say or do to increase your joy in being you." And that reminds me that my job is to get out of myself and see what, you know, you said, listen with compassion, and practice connection. And that's what I would be doing if I were looking around to the other people who are in my life.
Mm,
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
thank you for sharing that. Beautiful.
I put the words into the chat in case you wanted to refer to them again as you share.
Anything else? Anyone else want to comment? Share something? There you go, Deborah.
Yeah, Deborah.
I, like Han, cried and cried. I was so touched and moved to see Marshall. I have missed him. I miss seeing him, and it was so beautiful to see him and remember all the times when he would be in a large group with us and sing, and how moving it was and how touching it was. And I felt my heart so open to be listening to him tonight, and so grateful, Jim and Jori, that you had this video of him, and wanted to be in touch with my heart tonight is why I came, and I just cried and cried. So I guess
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I too am very touched. Thank you. I'm Moss. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
anyone else?
Jeanette.
Well, I am always amazed that whenever I show up in a Zoom group that has to do with either empathy or NVC, the quality of slowing down and really listening and really being heard and deeply expressing is not the norm of like dropping into a restaurant and meeting people. It's just a different quality of connection.
Yeah,
Even though I can do this with friends that I know, it's just a space where it's more personal and more I guess from the heart. There's more alignment from the heart. And that's not the way culture is anywhere else, like anywhere that you just drop in. It's like that song Cheers bar where, everybody wants to have a place where they're known. But here it's like just automatic. It doesn't take like seasons and seasons.
Yeah.
It's that I just saw a rerun of that Cheers bar, but that's not the way people normally operate.
Right.
Thank you.
Not yet. Not yet. You guys are the pioneers. You guys are the pioneers in creating this quality of connection in the world. And I really appreciate you coming here and experiencing what's possible. We get this kind of feedback a lot. I remember early in our training career, we were maybe in Houston or one of the southern cities, and we did a kind of a small group check-in in pairs where the instruction was similar to what we did here, where one person speaks for 5 or 6 minutes and the other person just listens with empathy, and then a switch. And when people were going around and checking in with the whole group afterwards, they said they felt closer and more connected to their speaking partner after that exercise than they did with almost anybody else in their life, even though they had just met this person 10 or 15 minutes before. And I think it's something about intention, really bringing clarity about our intention to connect, about really awakening our skills of empathy and our skills of speaking in a compassionate way, letting go of the moral judgment. So those are some of the highlights that I see happening in groups like this. So thank you for practicing.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, then we'll have to go to work.
I was going to see if anyone down there had their hand up.
No.
Yep.
I see you've arrived wherever you're going, Celia.
Mhm.
Cool. All right, let's get busy. Today's class is on the open-hearted flow of giving and receiving. We're more than 2/3 of the way through the matrix. So this is skill somewhere around number 22 or 23, something like that. So it's kind of interesting that this particular skill, which is at the very heart of NVC, at the level of purpose, somehow we, the authors of the matrix, chose to put it towards the bottom. And that's because there's a lot of other skills and consciousness that help to develop this open-hearted flow of giving and receiving.
Mhm.
And the way we defined it was transforming scarcity thinking into thriving creatively, joyfully contributing and receiving. And so for me, this is the real key, that most of it, because of the way we've been educated, we don't think there's enough. We don't think we're enough. We don't think there is enough. And so we have a lot of scarcity thinking. And NVC opens up the possibility of thriving creatively. And as we thrive and transform that thinking, something loosens up, at least in me, where I have a way more willingness to let my life energy flow, however that might be. It might be in terms of time, creativity, money, whatever. Here's the pathway. I'll just be quiet while you look at that.
Jim, are you sharing a screen? Because all I see is black.
Huh. Try again.
Is that true for everybody?
Let's try again.
No, that's not true for
How
everybody.
about now?
I can see it.
How about now? Does everybody see it now?
Yes, you can see
Okay.
it.
Great.
Most people could. Something was off.
Great. Now everybody can. Now we move.
Okay, sorry. I
No
think
worries.
it might be my connection.
No
Okay.
problem.
Okay, there we go.
Good.
We can see it, but the print is really small. It's a little
Let's see if I
hard
can
to
make it a
read.
little bigger for you.
Yeah, I think it gets bigger, but it doesn't.
So we'll just go through one little piece at a time. I can just talk about the pattern in general for these matrix skills. No
Mhm.
matter what the skill is, whether it's a matrix skill or anything else in life, we always start out with this unconscious incompetence. We don't know that we don't know how to do something.
Mhm.
And in the case of open-hearted flow of giving and receiving, often it means that we're into hoarding or we use our abundance, our access to resources to control others. And we often generate for ourselves a lot of fear of loss or not having enough and so forth. And we think that material stuff like money, things, is what gives us security.
You want me to take the next one?
Sure.
Okay. So then there's a time where we start waking up to something else. We become aware that there's actually a skill, that we can actually be consciously incompetent as we begin to recognize awakening, which is becoming aware of one's fears associated with not having enough and the value of contributing. And then as we practice, we become capable, able to really use the skill. It might take some effort initially, but we get to use the skill and we become curiously competent.
Consciously competent.
Thank you.
But it has
That
lots to do with
too.
curiosity.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. And so capable, increasing awareness of habitual programming, such as desire to hoard or difficulty receiving, and increased joy in the flow of contributing and receiving. And then as we continue to practice, we start to integrate this learning into us. We naturally use the skills with ease and flow. We're unconsciously competent. We have the joy and we have the joy and ease in giving and receiving with creativity and resourcefulness. Giving is receiving. It becomes one.
So this is like a key is this integrated column on the matrix where we're going from a skill at the capable level and below that, so to speak, to a consciousness. So it always starts as a skill, and then somehow we become one with this skill and it becomes part of who we are. So let's back here so you can look at this picture. This is the image that Marshall often used. We can't see this child's face, so you'll have to imagine it. You can imagine the joy, though, of the child feeding these hungry ducks. And that was a metaphor that Marshall often used to talk about this skill of open-hearted flow of giving and receiving, the very purpose of nonviolent communication. He often says something like, it's hard to tell who's having more fun, the duck or the kid, when there's a duck being fed by a hungry duck being fed by a kid. We have this wonderful picture of our daughter, Jaya. Some of you have met Jaya. She works for Sarah,
Peyton,
another trainer.
Yeah.
And we were traveling and Jaya's feeding some pigeons. It's the same thing. There's just so much joy on Jaya's face as she's feeding these pigeons, and the pigeons are going wild with gratitude. So today we're going to look a little bit at some of the programming that might get in the way of compassionate giving and receiving. And we're just going to start by doing a little journaling. So we're going to go through a series of questions, and then we'll go to small groups and talk about what you learn. So the first question is, what do you charge money for? What do you charge money for? I'll put it into the chat.
So take a moment to actually consider that, maybe even write a little bit, just a sentence or so.
Write as much as you like.
Yeah.
And we'll check in about 5 minutes. There's plenty. You make a nice list of what you charge money for. Another way to think about this question is that so many of the financial interactions that we have in the world are transactions. If this, then that. If I give you something, then you'll give me money. And so that's kind of what we're looking for is, what's this experience like for you? What do you do when you charge money? And then consider the next question, if you're finished with that one. Why? Why do you charge? Some folks have their camera on so I can check, and it looks like some people might be done. If you're not done, that's fine. Take all the time you need. Third question, what do you pay money for? It's probably a long list. What do you pay money for?
Can you tell them what's in the chat?
I'm putting these questions in the chat. Yeah. Like some folks might be ready for the fourth question. Why? You're probably into it, what the question was going to be. Why do you pay? About 1 more minute. Okay, so let's go to small groups and talk about this first group of questions with each other. Again, this is an opportunity to practice everything you know that you've learned about NVC in terms of honesty. You get to choose how honest you want to be. By the way, there's no have to. You're not required to say your deepest, darkest financial secrets or anything like that. You get to be the guardian of your own experience. And when you're listening, the encouragement is to listen beyond the content and listen to the feelings and the needs of the person expressing with open-hearted empathy and compassion. And again, we'll do this for 14 minutes plus 1. So that everybody has about 15 minutes to connect about this first round of questions. You know the next question. What'd you learn? What'd you learn about these 2 questions about paying and charging? What comes up for you now? Yeah, Monica.
So we were kind of talking about like in the olden days, or maybe some cultures, they'd use the barter system. And we were wondering like, oh, that might be kind of cool. But nowadays, how would you do that? You know? So maybe more how would you survive without money and be able to live like that? I do it a little when I go to Indonesia, but then I still need money, you know. I can't do it 100% with no money.
Can't even get there without the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there are some, I was just listening to a podcast. It might have been on Hidden Brain, my favorite new podcast, but they were talking about different kinds of money systems, and they were talking about kind of the new version of barter systems. They're called time banks. That's what it is. So it wasn't Hidden Brain, but just look up the concept of time banks, and you can see how some people are beginning to kind of reawaken this idea of barter. Katrina or Bernard, actually, it looks like a Bernard. Hey, Bernard.
Way to go.
So there we go. Hello. So I'm glad that Monica went first. I'm going to borrow her idea of barter. And in our small group, the idea of mattering also came into play. So I'm going to try to mix all the stuff together. My through line answer for all the questions was time. So like when you barter something, yeah, you spent time growing this, they spent time growing that. What's the equivalent? For me, if I'm going to do something for a company, you're asking me to give you my time that I could have been doing something else. So I'm going to charge you for my time if someone else is going to come and do the same. And when the question of why came up, I started thinking about when I volunteer. I volunteer when I mentor somebody. So I matter to them and they matter to me. And we're both getting something out of it. I grow from being a mentor. They're growing from me mentoring them. I hope they're growing from it. So for me, I don't charge for that stuff. I enjoy doing that regularly. And I'll pay for someone else's time to help save my time.
Yeah.
So it's a mutual beneficial thing. And I gave the example of when my wife and I painted our 2 walls in our living room and we thought we could knock it out in a day. It took half a day for me to tape off the area. And it took us a weekend to paint it. And I just remember what my roommate said of, would you pay yourself to do this thing? And, I'm starting to realize here's things I know I can do. Here's things I know I can't do in a reasonable time. I'd rather use my time in a more meaningful way.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's meaningful, I'll use up my time.
Yeah, transactions can really support us in banking our own time and getting clarity about what's happening. And I think they can be nonviolent. I think we can have a nonviolent transaction if we're clear. And I think a lot of that nonviolence in the transaction happens in me. So even when I go to the grocery store, I do my best when I'm buying a loaf of bread at Costco or whatever it is to remember all of the 10,000 steps it took to get that bread to Costco in Maui, from the oat farmer and the baker and the shippers and the sailors and all this, to really connect to all the contributions that were made in order for me to have that delicious piece of bread with my lunch today. And so I believe we have the opportunity to even make our transactions more holistic and part of a social system where everybody's needs can matter. I do get a little scared about the idea of time being linked to money, because I know that, for example, not to blame lawyers or to put the bright light on a lawyer, but lawyers sometimes charge $300 or $400 or $500 an hour, and the Walmart employee, or the Costco employee, they might get $15 or $30 an hour. And I actually can't think of anything more violent than thinking that one guy's time is more valuable than another guy's time. And so that's a place where I wrestle with the idea of transactions, is the linking time with value of a human being. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Bernard, anything else you want to say to finish?
No, I think that's it. Just, time's a precious resource. And yeah, it is a struggle to view, lawyer versus someone who gives their time, saying, at a soup kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Asta?
I really enjoyed these questions because that's also been at the heart of everything that I'm offering. I'm trying to see how I can relate with time in a way that is nonviolent. And to me, that really means to transcend the deserved thinking that's also often gotten attached with money, that I offer this so I deserve this much money. So the value itself can get attached to that. And what I've discovered with my own inquiry is that when I'm able to separate the contribution that I'm making is valuable for the contribution that I'm making, and what I'm asking for is really my request for the needs that I'm going to meet when I receive it. And it's not necessarily attached to the contribution that I'm making. I experience a lot more freedom then. In both being able to ask and even ask for more sometimes, and ask in ways that are differential based on different people. Like to ask somebody and say, hey, you can give more, so can I ask more from you? Because this is how I meet my needs, and for someone else to even just come in, it doesn't matter, I love your presence in this space anyway. So just like freeing up my contribution from meeting needs for which I'm asking for money, because it will maybe give me choice or ease or freedom to meet XYZ needs. That has definitely allowed me a lot more freedom. And actually also there is a lot of privilege that's also allowed me a lot of freedom to experiment with it. And I do come with a cushioning of if it fails, I'm still going to have my meal in place, and I'm still going to have a roof over my head. So I want to acknowledge that that's where also some of this is allowed. And at the same time, knowing that I do have that cushioning, in my experience, when I've opened my heart to this, I have always received sufficient. I genuinely have received sufficient, because then we take care of it collectively. And it's even grown more trust for me. So yeah, it's still something that I go in with, because every once in a while when I go back to my old world and people there, they would say, oh, but it's only a little bit you were earning, you're now earning only 20% of what you were earning before. And if I look at myself, I'm still meeting all the needs that I was meeting when I was earning 5 times of what I'm earning right now, and maybe more needs than I was meeting. So I do want to also acknowledge that it's been a very interesting way to explore relationship with money like that.
Wow,
Yeah,
beautiful. I
beautiful.
appreciate you sharing a little bit about your journey with us. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge the liberation that I experience as I hear you say that, we're so tied in so often to it has to be one way or the other, financially or whatever, but this is a liberation. Thank you.
Karen?
Yes, thank you. I appreciated all those comments. I had an interesting experience because I'm a visual person. And so I wrote down the questions 1, 2, 3, 4 and my answers. And in a group, when we were talking about them, I see in the beginning, the first question, what do I charge money for? So I'm charging money and I'm being paid. And then I go all the way through to the last question, what am I paying? Why am I paying? And now I am the person in question number 1. So that I saw this cycle. I am both the payer and the receiver. I'm the charger and the receiver.
Wow.
And all of it is a flow of meeting needs, mine and other people's needs. And so and money, it wasn't always in that equation, because there was this the experience of donating, of contributing skills or time, but where money is not. So what was the equalizer for all of this? The open-hearted flow, and one word for that for me that I love is the word harmony. So all the discord that could happen in the system is where the harmony is lost.
Yeah.
where the open-hearted flow is lost. And the goal for a happy society would be where there is an open-hearted flow, an exchange of giving and receiving. So this is very interesting to me.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen.
Thank you.
Really
Thank
appreciate your journey with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then we'll finish up with Isabel. Go on to the next part. Umesh?
Hi. So I wrote all the 4 questions, okay, but I will read the first part only. Okay, what do I charge money for? For providing building solutions that benefits corporates and sometimes individuals, using professional expertise and knowledge that I built using my time, money, and deliberate practice. Okay, and that's basically what I charge money for and how I pay also. And then I realized something else. Okay. So when I have this expert / beneficiary mindset that I am the expert in something, okay, and somebody else is benefiting from it, okay, then I feel like charging money, and sometimes quite a lot. Okay, how much time was spent on building that expertise? Okay, but when you have I have this other mindset, okay, which is like learner, co-voyager, or community mindset, okay, then it is like, okay, I'm also learning, okay, by providing my expertise. Okay, so we all learn from, and then their mindset becomes resource pooling. Okay, rather than on the money part. Okay, so another thing is, money is a sign of autonomy. It is my vote. Okay, on things that I care. Okay, and maybe the larger society or you don't care. Okay, if we both care for the same thing. Okay, there is little, there is more of a resource pooling. Okay, if it is I care for something, you care for something else. Okay, and then that money comes in, okay, and comes in sometimes very strong.
Makes sense. Thanks, Umesh. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Isabel, what's alive in you?
Thank you. Lovely to see you, Jori and Jim. I'm that lawyer who started my career learning from the American culture how money is time. And I'm based in Korea, and it's a country where we used to not think so, but efficiency took over, and now everything is money. And so that's how we progressed in a way. And so a couple of thoughts. I've been on a journey like 25 years now, actually thinking, what is money and what is giving and receiving? Can I give something that I do for free? And I'm still at it, but I find that my relationship with money changes with age and with where I am in life. For example, I am now willing to pay not only for the sustenance of the food and clothes, but also for the freedom and the joy of traveling. For example, discovery, I will pay for it. And I'll pay, what is required for it. So I think when I couldn't do this when I was younger because I was feeding the family basically. So I think it changes. And with that spaciousness suddenly is that thinking of, oh, I've been associating money with my sense of pride, who I am, why I matter, because that was the training from time, value, and all that. And how willing am I as an NVCer to let it go is where I stand right now. Yeah. How willing am I? And then I also, as a consumer of NVC, find myself questioning, will this person offer this truly with a spirit of giving and receiving, or must I pay to be seen? So it's a very complicated relationship. And lastly, I want to say that what I have noticed is there seems to be more sort of confidence in certain genders to charge, whereas I have always, and I attribute to this being a woman, but maybe I'm wrong, feel less like I can charge that much. I think that explains perhaps the gender salary difference that exists in the world.
Interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your experience.
Yeah.
And you're all pointing to this particular potential transition from a transactional world to a world based on compassionate giving and receiving, where I was very much influenced by a guy named George Kinder. And in the notes, there'll be a link to his book, 7 Laws of Money Maturity. But he talks about there's 2 mature stages of working with money. One is just being clear on these transactions, from the being as clear as possible from an NVC perspective on the needs that we're trying to meet when we're entering into a transaction, being honest with ourselves and with others about these transactions. But there's another way of having a compassionate flow of money, and that's related to the idea of volunteering, or compassionate giving would be the prime example, where we're not expecting anything in return for the gift that we give. Doesn't mean we don't get something back. Like Jori and I volunteer our time to give this class, for example, but we get a lot out of it. But it's not why we do it. We do it just because it's fun to give, and it's fun to watch you guys talk about it, and I learn something every week, and so forth and so on.
And there are gifts that come.
And there are gifts that come.
But it's not required.
And so that's what Kinder called aloha. Of course, and that's the word in Hawaiian, which means we all breathe the same air. And that's the energy of compassionate giving and receiving. So I put the last 4 questions into the chat, and I want to go back to small groups and let you just do a round where you talk about this distinction between requesting and giving, as opposed to paying and charging. And as you understand your own transition from transactional experience to aloha, or compassionate giving and receiving. Again, we'll do it for 15 minutes, and we'll do a little bit more talking. Do a couple of ideas before we finish for today, then hear from you, a checkout. I want to share with you Marshall's advice for transformation we were talking about today, which is the transformation from towards compassionate giving and receiving. Never pay money for anything. Give to serve life. So get really, really clear on what the reason it is that we're giving, which is to serve life, to fulfill the purpose of nonviolent communication. And likewise, never charge money for anything. Request money to help you do the work that you want to do. And so that's why we make a request every week or 2 here on NVC Academy. We love it when you give us some money, not us personally, but NVC Academy, because it helps NVC Academy do the work that they want to do, which is make their work available to people who couldn't otherwise afford to pay for NVC training. So that's why we make the request that we do. And the third piece of advice from Marshall is to transform the concept of worth. So Marshall once said that this idea of deserving is the most one of the most toxic ideas that the domination culture ever came up with, that some people deserve to be punished and some people deserve to be rewarded. And we have transferred that thinking into money. And so as we begin to transform our concept of worth and realize that we're not paying for money for anything, we're giving to serve life, we're not charging money for anything, we're requesting in order to help us do the work we want to do, that helps us to transform that concept. It's like an effect of that transformation. And here's the quote from Marshall. Do you want to read it?
No.
Please.
Okay. All right. Never do anything for money. Get money to do what you want to do. Do the work that meets your need for meaning. I request money. I do not charge. I give money to help people do what they want to do. If what they do enriches my life, I'd like to give them money to keep giving this to others. Quote from Marshall Rosenberg.
And I'll put the link to the YouTube video in the chat. This will be in the notes that will be in the classroom, by the way. I love that we have access to Marshall on these YouTube videos whenever we want them.
Yeah, very cool.
So here's your homework for the rest of your life. And I give this homework to myself as well.
Yes, we do.
Watch this habit that we have to pay and use every transaction that we're involved with to transform the thinking into giving the served life. And the way we do that is by connecting to the needs. Transform charging into requesting. It's the same deal, only instead of charging, we're requesting in order to help us do the work that we want to do in order to create meaning and purpose in our lives. And this will be in the, it's a long quote, but so we won't go through reading it now, but it'll be in the notes as well. So let's do a little checkout. We have about 7 or 8 minutes left. So what'd you learn today? That's the question I'm most interested in, especially if you're here for the very first time. What was it like for you to come into the middle of this movie and to suddenly have all your thinking about paying and charging maybe challenged? What was it like for you? So all voices are welcome. Even if you thought this was the worst class that you ever attended, I'd still like to hear about it.
If you hung in there that long, if you did.
Vivek, go ahead.
I like it. I'm feeling a little inspired. So it was very interesting. The universe conspired that in the little breakout group that we had, there were a couple of us who were struggling with that same thing about in what we're doing right now, which is we don't really want to charge money. And I think the approach which you just outlined in these slides with Marshall, I'm actually looking forward to seeing that video, is excellent. I think I'm going to go with this, which is just request them to help you do your life's work. I really like that way of reasoning about it. I'm going to give it a shot.
That sounds great, Vivek. Thanks for helping us change
Okay.
the world.
Yeah, you go, guy.
And either Katrina or Bernard, your turn.
That's me this time. I found kind of your challenge to look at how we look at money difficult, because when you work in systems that are set, that you don't get to define the terms of, and the systems are set to extract, right? And so I shared with the group in more detail, but just the challenge of working within a system that is set that way. And even if that's not your intent, the system is built. And so kind of just the struggle, right? With working within a system where there are things that you would do for free, and then there are other things that, you know, maybe don't jive with you. And still there is, you know, kind of that, maybe you would call it like a misalignment of values, and just a challenge of feeling even very activated by kind of your question because of what you don't have control over in the systems that you work with. So
It's
like very interesting, super challenging, something I'll be chewing on for sure.
Oh, good. It's very, very painful for us. Just to
Yes.
acknowledge the pain that we have to be the pioneers in transforming a domination system that's been around for a few thousand years now. And here we are, we're beginning to learn that there might be another way of looking at things. And boy, we're stuck. It seems like we're stuck in these systems. And we certainly can't do much about, I don't know, changing the International Monetary Fund, but we certainly can change how we interact with our babysitter or our teachers that we might, or our tutors or whoever. We might find opportunities to do some transformational work in our own small systems. And then we mourn. We really need to make room for mourning the suffering that so many people have because of the inequality that is built into the system as it is currently unfolding for us. The fact that about 100 people control about I don't know what the percentage is.
90
It's a huge percentage of the wealth
Yeah.
in the world. That's just so painful to read those statistics and to be with. Even though some of these guys live, they're neighbors. I mean, I would just really wish Mark Zuckerberg, I would love to run into him in the grocery store and somehow figure out how we could have a conversation together. And because there may be leverage as we connect with people who have structural power. Anything else you want to say, Katrina?
No, just thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Katrina.
for sharing that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think we'll finish with Dawn and/or Beth.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciated all those little comments, and especially what Katrina, was it Katrina that just spoke up? Yeah, you had some really good insight there. The reason I have my hand up is I was kind of wanting to see what you had posted, that last slide, what Marshall had said. And I'm wondering if that could be either in the chat or as a handout so that we could have those. That's why I raised my hand. Yeah. And I'll lower my hand. Could that be?
That's not the last one, is it? Right before we had the chat about transforming our attitude about transaction.
There you go.
Yeah.
So this recording that this quote comes from is experiencing needs as a gift, which is something that emerged from an IIT, an international intensive training back in around the year 2001 or two, something like that. For me, this is when Marshall was at the peak of his training career. And I must have listened to this particular CD 1,000 times. I just put it in the car and over and over and over and over again, just soaking my consciousness with this idea of experiencing needs as a gift. And so I hope you guys enjoy it too.
Mm-hmm.
It says the video is private. I'll have to look into why that is. Used to be public.
Which one is that?
Huh. Somebody changed it. Oh, well, I'll look around for it. And if I can find it, I'll let you guys know.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So life changes. Here we are in a domination system where there's such a thing as copyright and so forth. Umesh, we'll finish with you, and then I'll go and open up the after party. Umesh?
Yeah. So, sorry. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, okay, this not linking worth, okay, to money. Okay, we have heard it so many times. Okay, but then the whole world, okay, and our own sense of this being, okay, does come with worth. Okay, so delinking it, okay, and just thinking of money allowing you to do work that you want to do in the world. Okay, that is pretty liberating. There are a few times when I have experienced it. Okay, it has been amazing. Okay, when you think the other way and start comparing, okay, it's gone. Okay, so that was pretty wonderful. Okay, and this session, by the way, has been very special to me because mostly when you describe the metrics, okay, I'm at the 0 or 1, no, very first 1 and 2. But in this one, okay, I have been at the all 4 spectrum. Okay, there have been times when I have felt in integrated one, and then from integrated, I have come back to 0 also. Okay, first. So that was kind of very amazing. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Umesh, and thank you all for being here today. I don't know what's going to happen next week, but the topic will be sharing power. I might be sharing power with another trainer if something unfolds with my medical drama, but I'll let you know. I'll let Martin know. And I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm going to buzz off the call here and start the after party. The after party is just an opportunity. It's another Zoom link that Marta will put into the chat here. And you guys can go and hang out if you're not done yet. If you want to just have a chance to connect with some friends for a little bit longer. And we'll see you next week or soon thereafter.